Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bow Hunter. I'm your host, Matty, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands. Searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bow hunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bow hunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bow hunting. Yo, bow hunters, what is up? Merry Christmas to all. This is a special episode, a little kickback to 2018, I think it was, where James Doumtsis went overseas to Bulgaria and did a little fallow rut trip. So it's really quite cool to kind of hear the difference in the fallow over there compared to over here. And something that seems like such a distant memory, the old flying around the world, I think is not going to always be that way, hopefully. And hopefully we'll be able to get back overseas and keep doing a broad trip soon. So hopefully this one fills you guys with a little bit of drive to potentially look abroad and see what you guys can take on in the new years to come, or the bow hunting realms to come. But for now, guys, I just want to say Merry Christmas. I hope you're getting the rain. I hope the rain's getting all over Australia where it needs to be. Right now, it's bucketing down at my house here in Brisbane. The whole East Coast is absolutely copping it, which is awesome. And I just hope that keeps coming. What a good little Christmas present for Australia. So let's hope that it keeps coming, and I think it's meant to. So, guys, I just wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you for the year that's been. I know COVID absolutely stuffed 2020 for so many people. And I think what's been really cool is just to see how much communities have really come together to help each other out. And I hope you guys have witnessed that too. Outside of that, I'm looking forward to the new year. There's some really big things coming, which I'm excited for. And I will release more of that when the new year comes. This one's dropping on Saturday. I've been meaning to release my deer hunt that I did a few weeks back. I recorded the episode a few weeks back, and I've been meaning to do it, literally, drop it probably for the last few weeks, but I've just been a bit run off my feet. So that will come. I promise it before the new year. It might be just an extra little Christmas gift for you guys, and then we've got some new episodes coming in the new year. So, team, thank you very much for the year that has been. And I'm looking forward to hearing some more hunting stories and sharing them with you in the new year. Thanks heaps, team. All right. Well, I'm recording. Let's get into it.
All right.
Bow hunters, welcome back. I've got James Doumtsis on the line. James, welcome.
Thank you, mate. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, so we actually tried to record this. I didn't even know when that was. That was the end of last year, maybe. Start of this year.
Yeah, it was at my old job, so it would have been at least probably 6-7 months ago, I'd say.
And you were on call, and you got called out, I think, twice during it, and we still tried to keep recording during that time. And I think by the time you'd been called out the second time, we kind of called it quits.
Yeah, something like that. And then we've just sort of been not putting it off, but yeah, every time you message me, I'm like, no, I can't do it now. And I'll message you, and then, no, I can't do it. So here we are finally talking again, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, a lot's changed for you. You're up north now. You're in the tablelands of near Cairns. And I guess a lot's changed for everyone in 2020. It's been an interesting year. But this podcast will probably drop, to be honest. It'll be the last podcast I drop for 2020.
There you go.
Yeah. And so what was that?
I was going to say Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. I think it's about a week out of Christmas. So there you go. But I actually found the sheet, and it has some fun facts about Bulgaria. So this is the whole podcast. We're going to talk about your trip to Bulgaria that you did. When was that? Was that 2019?
It was the end. Yes, it was. Yes.
Yeah.
It was October 2019.
Yeah, sick. So 2019, and I think we tried to record in January. I'm pretty sure it was. And so
yeah,
I got a whole heap of fun facts about Bulgaria, which I'm actually going to spout out again because I thought they were pretty cool. So they've got about a population of around 7 million people. On average, the men stand about 173 centimeters. The ladies stand about 164 centimeters. They are in the southeast, or Bulgaria itself is in the southeast of Europe. It's bordered by Romania, Serbia, Greece, Turkey, and North Macedonia. They have 110,994 square kilometers, which is the 16th largest country in Europe. And there was some pretty interesting. I've got a whole heap of like facts about, I don't know when their kingdoms all started, but I don't want to dive too deep into that. But they're actually like, this was the best tip I think I found. I just got to find it again. They.
Are you going to quote me back to me? Are you going to tell me that 10% of Bulgaria are gypsies?
No, because I've got 10% of them are Muslims, which is the second biggest.
Maybe that's what set me off.
Maybe they've got three quarters of them are Orthodox Catholics, and then apparently 10% are Muslims, which is the second biggest amount within Europe, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Weightlifting is their signature sport. They speak Bulgarian, of course, and there's something I got to find it here. It's, where is it? Bulgaria is a developing country and ranks 52nd on the Human Development Index, lowest development rank in the UE along Romania. Widespread corruption is a major socioeconomic issue, ranked most corrupt country in the European Union in 2018 it was, so just before you got there.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Crazy.
Mate, you've just sorted everyone's trivia questions ever for Bulgaria.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's much more to learn about it apart from the different kingdoms as they were growing. But yeah, that's enough on that. Let's talk about hunting.
That's right. Let's get into it.
So let's talk about, like, obviously it how did it come about for you? Was it because of Benny Solaris kind of setting and pathing the way for everyone else?
Yeah, definitely. Like I remember seeing Brad Murphy and Benny Solaris went over in 2018. So Brad had just done Ben's already spoken about it a couple of times on multiple podcasts, but he was working in Greece, so he was he'd go to Bulgaria routinely for hunting trips, and he spoke to Mr. Murphy about how incredible it was over there, and Brad was just finishing up an album trip, so he sort of flew over there and they did a trip. And after seeing the videos and whatnot, I said, Brad, like, if you ever go back, like, please put me down on the list. And then anyway, about it must have been probably 3 or 4 months later, he called me and said, did you mean what you said? And I was like, yeah, bloody oath. And so we sort of put plans into action, I guess, and came up with a bit of a crew. So we tried to organise two groups of 4 hunters. So the first group of hunters was Robbie Austin, Casey McCullum, and then Robbie's mate Dill. And then Benny Solaris was meant to be on that, but he ended up cancelling last minute because of work commitment. So there was 3 in the first group. And then the second group was Brad. We tried to have it so that Ben and Brad were there in different groups so that, obviously just for how things worked. Yeah, we had someone there. But so we had Brad Murphy, Jerry Redmond, myself, and Nick Collins. So that was a really good group. And
so you were there at different times.
So they were there. I think it ended up being like they were there. It's pretty much, because if you think about it, like the rut's 6 months out. So from here to there. So we were there, I think, between like the 8th and the 14th maybe or something like that. And they were there from sort of, I think it was a 5-day hunt. I can't remember exactly, but they were there from maybe the 3rd till the 8th, and we were there from the 8th till the 13th, just say. But yeah, it was unreal. Like in terms of organising it, like Ben is now doing silent pursuits, so he's sort of organising most of the stuff. Like if anyone has questions or anything, like I'm free to send me a message, because it is like a really, especially with the bow, like if you haven't shot a big fallow before, there's hundreds of bucks. Like I went over there being like, I'm just going to be really, like I've never shot a huge fallow buck, so I'm just going to shoot the first big one. But it's sort of, no, I'm not going to give that example. It sounds very, anyway. You probably can imagine where I was going. You walk into a bar, I'm going to say, and like everyone's a 9 out of 10, but you still try and get that 10 out of 10. And so you get over there and everything's huge. Like if you shot like I'm terrible at Douglas points, but if you shoot like a 180, everything goes from a spike at like 210 Douglas points, and then there's a shitload of like 230s and 240s, and you're trying to find stuff bigger than that. Like you're trying to find that 250, 260, 270, 280.
Yeah.
potentially bigger. So like Benny Solera shot a huge one. I think it was like 304, but that's like the Bulgarian record with the bow and like fourth biggest ever in Bulgaria or something. But so like, that 260 to 280 is what you're sort of looking for. And it's like you go over there being like, oh, shoot, first thing. Well, I did anyway. And then it's very hard because you're just naturally sort of geared to try and get the biggest animal. But yeah, I guess going back from the start. So the first thing was...
Well, I was going to say, before we even get there, like, is it hard to make a decision to go and hunt something that you can hunt in your backyard?
Yes and no. Like, I guess my fallow access currently isn't the best. Like, I do have a couple of spots, like I said, but they, like they're not big by any means. It was more just the experience, like having 20 bucks croaking right in front of you is something that you'll never forget. Mm-hmm. And so like the video that, like I said, the video that I'm sort of making at the moment, hopefully it does it justice, but it's so hard to describe. Like it's just, you walk the first day you come off the mountain, you're like dragging your jaw between your 2 feet as you're walking, because there's just, you might have, it depends, like you're hunting the lek. So like the big lek that I was hunting had like 300 deer on it. Most of them had sort of 100 to 150, but you just like, you're looking at 50 bucks just croaking in front of you.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, like it's pretty spectacular. And just sort of the atmosphere, I guess, like the vocalization, the fighting, like like it's just something that's hard to describe. And to be honest, like the hunting, I was saying like specifically with the bow, like, because there's so many deer, like getting into those leks, because they're literally like open hill faces, is quite hard. But I mean, like if you had a rifle and you could shoot 200 meters, like it'd be quite easy shooting the biggest buck there. Like it's more like closing the gap to that like 30 meters when you've got like 2 rocks as you cover and you've got like 200 deer, which makes it like very slow and very challenging. But yeah, like, I mean, it's just different. Like here, you're also sort of like, if you were there, like that's the thing, like, we were like, oh, we'll try croaking and croaking and high calling and rattling and all that stuff. But like, they just don't care. Like there's that much, activity going on that you're just sort of a drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
So I guess it was good to get that experience, and it was something that I'm definitely glad that I did. Like, would I do it again potentially later on? But I guess there's just other hunts that I want to sort of do as well. But I certainly loved every second of being there. Like the whole experience, it wasn't even just like the hunting; it was like the culture and talking to the people, like the guides and whatnot, and also just like, the service that you get when you're actually staying at the accommodation is like 5-star.
Yeah,
like they feed you like 3-course meals every day, and it's pretty funny actually. There's one photo I put up on my Instagram, but it's like when you're in Bulgaria and butter gets promoted to a food group, because like they've literally like, there's a photo of like, there's a piece of cheese, there's like salami cheese and then butter in a sandwich. And there's like, a couple of pieces of salami, like maybe 3 mil piece of cheese. And then there's like a 3 mil piece of butter next to it. They've literally cut like a slab. And so I've like bitten in this sandwich and I'm like, what the hell?
Got to get your fats in.
Like, oh, mate. Like, I was like, you can't even chew it. It's like clag. It's just like eating glue. Anyway, so I quickly bloody sorted that out. But yeah, like it was even just all of it, like the cooking, like I love food and whatnot. So like, I guess like you were talking about Greece being one of the borders, like where we actually hunted was about 40 k's from Greece.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, then they speak like a bit of Macedonian and Greek and stuff, which is my sort of background. But I sadly don't talk either of those, which would have been handy. But learning. Yeah, dad and mum can both speak Greek Macedonian. So
do they ever talk it at home or not really?
Oh, they talk it to like our grandparents and whatnot, but they don't, like, it's not like that. Yeah. And even then, like I guess they can sort of speak it, but it's not.
No.
Yeah, like they're probably 80% of the way there, I guess.
Yeah,
like it's enough to get by, but it's not a full. Yeah,
that's bugger. They didn't talk to you guys in it when you're growing up.
Oh,
you would have
now
learned so much of it.
Now I wish I sort of learnt it, but at the time, like it's like I wish I could play guitar and piano, and I was good at sport, and I was nice, and all the rest of it. Like,
good looking, all that stuff.
I wish I was a good person. And, like
we can't have everything though.
That's right.
And so, like, is it only a bow hunting place where you guys went to, or is it?
Definitely. No, it's rifle and bow hunting.
Yeah.
So it's just that we organised it. All our group just happened to be bow hunters. Casey McCullum actually shot but it was the only fallow I think he's ever, only deer I think he said he ever shot with a rifle.
Wow.
Because his bow just pretty much blew up. Like it was not working at all. And
Jesus.
they ended up shooting one with a rifle, and then Robbie Austin actually gave him his bow for like the last day, and he got it all tuned in, and he ended up shooting a nice buck with the bow too. So, yeah, that was really good. And that was congratulations to him. But I think he was pretty upset. Like if you go somewhere and your bow stuffs up, it's
Definitely, dude.
pretty horrific. Like you obviously spent a lot of money getting there, and you're spending a lot of money sort of doing it. So,
man, I mean that's kind of the whole theme of this trip, right? Like it was just drama filled with things that could go wrong that went wrong, right?
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, yeah. So Jerry, all of Jerry's camera gear and his bow didn't rock up for the first day, which we were pretty lucky. Like he got it on the second day, so we only missed one day of hunting. But I guess if it was a more high stress, like you get plenty of opportunities on this hunt, which is one good thing. Like especially if you're like Nick hadn't done that much hunting and he wanted to shitload about fallow behaviour and fallow, like antics during the rut. So that was one thing, like we all did really, because you just got so much of it in front of you. Like one thing one of the biggest things I took away from fallow behaviour is like everyone's like, oh, this is what a fallow doe calls, like, and some people are like, me, and some people are like, me, and some people are, like, me, and, mate, for how many accents we have in the world, they have fallow calls. Like sitting there listening to like, literally 100 does chirping in front of you. It's just like they're as different as, you could do anything. And like, I'm sure there's ones that are more likely, but like everything, you hear that red deer raspy voice up on the mountain. You're like, oh, I bet you it's some guy wrong up there. And it ends up being, some old stag that you wish you shot and you gave more attention to. But yeah, so that was pretty interesting. And just seeing how the bucks sort of react to the does and interact, it was pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, like, you flew from where to where?
So what we ended up doing was, we ended up booking flights. We ended up flying from, we were all in Melbourne. So all four of us flew from Melbourne to Doha, which was, I want to say like 13 hours maybe.
Yep. It's a guitar.
Most expensive place I've ever bought a tea.
It's ridiculous.
Bought a cup of tea for Brad Murphy. It was costing me like $11. I was like, mate, it's literally water.
You haven't let him forget it yet.
And some. Oh no.
Brad's still got a tab with you, hey?
No, I had a tab with him. I owed him $10, and I was like, mate, I hope you like that $10. I'm like, here's your cup of tea. Anyway, so yeah, that was pretty good. And then we flew from Doha into Sofia, which is Bulgaria's capital.
Okay.
So the flights end up costing about $1,500, I want to say.
Return? Or just,
yeah.
Well, that's pretty decent.
Return.
That's pretty decent.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. Like we booked them sort of, which was pretty good. And it was the same route home.
So let's talk about your setup for carrying your stuff across the seas. Obviously, you want to make sure that your bow stays safe and it doesn't blow up like Casey
definitely
had happen. So what's your case that you've got that you take it overseas with, and do you kind of have the case that holds arrows as well, or do you do that all separate?
Yeah. So my case, I don't even know I bought it from Bass Pro in the US when I was like 14 years old, and I'm 26 now. And I've had the same case. It's like a hard plastic case. It's got sort of two stabilizers, I guess, like in the middle. And it's got like an arrow compartment. It's got a little plastic container for where you put, I hope I'm giving enough description so someone can know what it is, but and a little plastic container that I keep all my bunny heads and broadheads and all the rest of it, and generally my sharpener. So I've used that very successfully, because I can fit pretty much that. I'll put my camera tripod in there. I'll put, a gimbal if I'm taking it for filming. Like I'll put a heap of camo and jocks and socks and all the rest of it in there, and then close it up, and that's sort of like then rigid, I guess.
Yeah.
I've actually, admittedly, so this, we'll get to that in a sec, but until this trip, it had flown perfectly. Like I'd rock up and the bow would be tuned and whatnot. So, and still the sights were fine. But yeah, this trip obviously got knocked out, and I'll tell that story in a second. But we got over there and my gear was all fine, like nothing had broken, and like that case has stood up pretty well. Generally, I put all my camera gear in my backpack, so like I'll try and smuggle as much on. I love it when they're like, oh, your thing's too expensive. It's like, yeah, well, don't weigh my carry-on because that's like 14 kilos. Well, if you're taking like 2 cameras over there, a laptop, and more batteries than you know what to do with, like it just ridiculously blows out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I put everything that could break easily into my carry-on, or if not, like Brad and Nick didn't really have much carry-on, so me and Jerry sort of smuggled some stuff into theirs. But yeah, like Brad had a big Eastern hard case. I think Jerry might even have some, because mine's plastic, like mine's hard. So the big thing you got to think about is like, I guess it's sort of like that debate whether you have like the security or whether you have the weight. Like, so Jerry had like a really hard sort of Pelican case, but it probably weighed 4 kilos by itself.
Yeah.
So none of your shit's going to break, but you're also like, well, I've lost 4 kilos of weight, whereas mine probably only weighs a kilo or 1.5 kilos empty, but obviously it's not as rigid. And then Brad also had an Eastern one where he could fit 2 bros and a heap of camo and stuff, and that seemed pretty good because it's got hard plastic sort of slots down the sides of it, but it's still mainly just sort of fabric, and that looked pretty rigid and sort of stable as well. But yeah, in terms of, we didn't have any specific sort of gear. It's just stuff that we'd all used flying international before, so we sort of knew that it'd stand up on this flight too.
I've seen people using I think it's like Total Tools or something like that. You can get it from super cheap, the big briefcases, but they just weigh a ton. Like I think I've got a small one just for all of our podcast gear, and I think that's probably a 5 kilo briefcase just by itself. And I think if you go bigger for a bow, like the case could be up to 10 Ks just by itself, but it's got like foam and everything through it, so it's like super secure.
Yeah, and that's what Jerry's had. Like Jerry's had the big hard case and plus all the insulated with foam. I guess it's just like I sort of said before, it's a compromise between weight and sort of structural stability. And I mean, if you can find something that weighs obviously pretty not much, because I think on this flight we all had 30 kilos, but I mean, me and Jerry with camera gear, like we were flogging stuff off to Nick and Brad to get over there, because we could only get max 30 kilos, and we didn't have enough. Like, I think Jerry ended up having like probably 36, and I ended up having 32 or something like that. So we ended up giving a bit to the other boys. But yeah, like we, like having a case that's rigid enough to withstand it, but also, like, I mean, my best advice would be don't do what I do, and as soon as you get over there, shoot your bow and make sure it's tuned. Like, that would be the number one rule, pretty much. And then, just find something that's light and rigid.
Yeah,
for flying.
So tell us about your setup. What did you actually have, bow-wise, arrow-wise, everything?
So I was shooting the bow that I've got now, which is the RX1 Ultra, which I really like.
Yeah.
I'm shooting like a 30-inch draw or 30.5-inch draw. I just find it really comfortable to shoot. On that trip, I'd actually started using a back tension release, or a hinge, because I was having trouble with target panic and punching the trigger and whatnot. So, and then broadheads, I was cut, I think 175 as usual. And then I was shooting the Darrell Bulger's native heat seekers, which are a ripping, very affordable arrow, actually. Like, the setup's really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the setup I put, and then obviously tusk camo and lower boots. But yeah, like in terms of actual hunting gear, that was what I was sort of running.
The 175 broadhead, was that 2-blade?
Yeah, always two. I pretty much always run 2-blade.
Yeah.
Just sort of, I guess, like I've been using that head now for
years.
6 years now, 5 years or something like that. So I guess, like, I was using the 185 before that, and then 175. Every so often Nick finds a 185 and he's a legend and he'll send it up to me. But pretty much, yeah, I've just been using one. Like, I don't know, like once you, I guess I don't like tinkering too much. I'm not one of these fellas that, like, it's the same with my bows. Like, I don't like getting a new bow every year, and I don't, like, generally I'll find something that I really like and I know that it works, and I'll just sort of stick to it. Like, I'm sort of like, well, like, I'm not really I don't want to like be testing out new gear on game, because it just seems risky.
Yeah,
like, well, not risky, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just,
you don't want to tinker all the time.
I'm sure every broadhead works. I've just seen that, like, I've just proven multiple times that this has worked. And, you know, like, yeah, like with all of my gear, like sort of the same with Tusk. Like, I really love Tusk and like lower boots, you know, like been to New Zealand multiple times, but I'm still using the same pair of boots. Like, I admittedly need to get a new pair, but like, they just, yeah, like, you know, once I find confidence in something, I really just stick to it. So
yeah, definitely.
I was really confident with my setup going over.
And so, weather-wise, was it going to be pretty similar? Like, did you have to invest in any more camo?
No, it was man. It was very similar. So they get snow there in winter, but like so literally think of like April rut down in like New South Wales or Vic, and that's the weather. Like I was wearing like my boulder jacket during the sort of mornings. If I was hunting, doing an all-day hunt, like I'd take that off and be wearing like a merino base layer or sort of like a stone shirt underneath, and keep my boulder pants on. And that was, like we're talking 25 during the middle of the day, maybe 20, maybe even less if it was like a good cool day for rut activity. And during the mornings, you might be looking at 6. Like it was pretty
easy,
pretty similar, really. Like I was so comfortable for hunting, like
man.
So comfortable.
I bought myself some of those boulder pants, and they've been too hot for me to wear at any point.
Oh.
Actually, admittedly, I bought the wrong pair because they just had a sale on. And I was like, oh yeah, that's the pair I want, and I bought them.
Yeah.
And then I got them, I think it was middle of summer here in Brizzy. I'm like, that's way too hot. And I wore them for a trip down to a goat property that I go to in New South. And we had like 1 degree days, but even by the time the sun came out, like they were just too warm.
Yeah, I was going to say, you work it up, especially if you're moving around a fair bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like the Tusk stuff, if you want good Tusk summer gear, like I run the Stone shirt and the new XT pants, and with the knee pads in.
Yeah.
Especially for like stalking chill, like, sometimes you just have to get down and crawl because you've just got no cover, and they're so comfortable. Like they're so comfortable, so breathy. Like, like sometimes like in summer and stuff when it gets to like 45 degrees, like, you no matter what you're wearing, you're still going to be sweating your ass out. But it is so comfortable. And the other thing is, you just like literally, you go back to camp for lunch or whatever, you literally like rinse it in water so you don't stink, and then like hang it on a tree, and like 5 minutes later it's dry.
Yeah, it's
like
pretty worthwhile.
Yeah, no, it's if you're hunting in warm weather like that, camo's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I don't even know what shirt I've got from Tusk, but it's that's the one problem with it. It does get pretty smelly if you've worn it for a few days. Yeah. I think that's just hunting though.
That's it. But once we got over there, we grabbed all our gear, and we had a guy. Oh, he's a guide, but he's also like he was our translator when we were there. His name's Kalen.
Yep.
And he was an absolute weapon. So he was the same translator that the boys had on there. Like he guides for the Reds and Mouflon and Chamois and stuff, I'm pretty sure. But definitely Reds. But yeah, he and Wild Boar, like so he loves hunting, but he was there with Ben and Brad their first year, 2018. And so he drove us to our hunting lodge, which was about 4.5 hours. And we rock up, and there's like the most beautiful accommodation. You're like on this bed, edge of this big lake and stuff. And like you're literally driving into camp, and we saw like, there's 3 red hinds, and there's like 30 fallow deer and stuff. Like it's pretty cool. Like you literally walk out in the morning and you hear bucks croaking. Yeah, that's awesome. But like you don't hunt around camp. Like most of the big bucks, it's sort of, that's the thing. Like where the big bucks are. Like the big bucks are going to the Lex. Like that's where the hot spots are. So you walk out of camp and you see like 220 bucks, but you're like, there's going to be like, I'm going to drive past 50 getting to this rut stand sort of thing, and that's where you hunt. So the accommodation, everyone, I'm not sure if everyone had their own room or shared rooms, but we like walked in, and literally like all the bucks that like Casey and Robbie and all them had shot is like sitting on the floor, but then plus like all the other bucks that hunters had shot from the year. So there's like probably 25 monster fallow buck skulls, like massive cast antlers. There's like a stuffed wild boar, like like huge red deer casties and everything like that. Like all like it's you can just tell that they sort of love hunting. It's just ingrained in their culture, especially sort of where we were, and like the guides love it and sort of live for it too. And they're like, it was sort of funny because they like not a lot of them can speak English, and so like it's pretty broken. And you try and have a conversation with them, and then they get back to camp, and they've sort of like, they'll be like, okay, ask this question. Then you ask the translator, and they're like, like I've got, you ask them about how many kids they got. Like, I got 4 kids. Like, like just they were trying to remember everything that you say to them and try and get an answer for you later. Like they're just really caring people as well.
That's awesome.
But yeah, the guides I mean, all the fellas love their guide, but the guide I had was an absolute weapon. I definitely like we're friends on Facebook now, and we still chat a fair bit.
Yeah, that's cool. Because how long were you there for total? Did you say 5 days?
I'm trying to think how many days. I think we were there so I think we rocked up like in the night of one day, and we had like a night over with the other boys, and then we had 4 days of hunting, I want to say, and then we left the morning of the 5th day.
Yeah, okay. So you're spending a fair bit of time with him.
Oh yeah. We spent like all day together for those 4 days. But yeah, he was a weapon. But in terms of the hunting, yeah, we rocked up in the night and hung out with the other boys, which was cool, and sort of got sort of perspective of ground zero and what the deer were doing and stuff. And like when they got there, so the first couple of days of April, the bucks were up on the left, but the hinds they'd just started moving in. So they were just starting to see sort of more fighting behaviour and whatnot, and sort of like it was just starting to actually get into like the rutting part, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas when we were there, it was like, mega just orgy. like just, yeah.
Big swingers party.
Oh, mate, like it was just insane. But yeah, it was unreal to watch and just witness like the behaviours of what goes on in the rut and like how does choose bucks, and yeah, like it was really cool. So yeah, we hunted the first morning. We went out because me and Jerry both wanted to make a film from this trip. So Jerry said, "I'll come video you because you're keen on making a video, and I don't like." Yeah, he's like, it's just gonna be easier. So we cruised out. We got up and found we got to the left and we're like looking at it from the bottom. And we're like, holy shit! Like just absolutely, just we can only see half of it from the bottom of the mountain, which is probably like 800 meters away, and you can just see like fallow deer running everywhere on the skyline. Like it's gonna be insane. Sorry. So we like drove up there and sort of parked maybe 300-400 meters off the edge of like the mountain, like away from the left. And then me and Jerry sort of belly crawled in, and because the thermals were rising, like we got into about I want to say like 50 or 60 from like a good bedded buck. And then the thermal started changing, and obviously because we were in the sun, started sucking up, and pretty much everything left the lek. And anyway, so we kept hunting up this sort of like the ridge line because everything sort of spooked, and we could hear bucks croaking in the gully below me. And we saw this like really good buck, like pretty good. Like it ended up being like probably in the top 5 best buck, because you end up knowing the bucks from like what extra points they've got. They're like, he's got a double drop tine, he's got like a double guard tine, or he's got like his third speller has like a snake tongue coming off it on his left side, and he's got a really long finger on his right, because especially because I was videoing him too, I knew who the big boys were.
Yeah.
Because once you get so many deer in front of you, it sounds stupid, but you can't. I don't know. It was just hard. Like it was just hard. This is like people are going. I know that people are sitting at home and in their cars and in their workshops and wherever you're sitting, going, "Nah, this guy's got no idea." But you wait till you see the video that I'm going to put out. You'll be like, "Nah, he's a good buck," and then you see the next one walking, you're like, "Oh, he's just a baby." Like you almost need them all together so that you can compare. Because when you only see one by itself, you just get like, especially me because I hadn't seen that many fallow, you just get blown away.
But how often were they kind of together versus only being by themselves?
Oh, well, that's the thing. They spend if you don't disturb them, they'll just stay on the lek all day. Like the bucks and most of the does will sort of leave, but the bucks will just like literally bed up there.
Yeah.
Like they just go so hard, like so unbelievably hard. Like, yeah. But anyway, so that after that first morning, we saw really one of the real good bucks and stalked down, and Jerry was filming me, and we sort of had to go down to the sort of thicker forest, like off the edge, and they bedded up in the open, like this hind yearling and the buck, and end up stalking into ranged at like 27 meters, and it's just sleeping like perfectly broadside. And I've like drawn back my bow and shot and just watched the arrow sail about 6 inches over this thing's back. And I was just like, no!
Did it just up and go?
He hung around sort of, but then because he ran into the thick foresty stuff, and then the way that he ran sort of like, if I'm facing straight down the hill, he ran up sort of to my, I guess I want to say like 3 o'clock, but Jerry was like right over my shoulder on that side. So like he's standing there at maybe like 50, but it's in like thick timber. He ended up like coming past at like 30, but we just couldn't, we tried stopping him with hind calls and a couple of times, but like it was just so quick, and he, there was no, put it this way, the chance that I would have got him in a shooting lane again was like almost impossible.
Yeah.
And anyway, yeah, so he took off, and I was pretty bummed about that. And we went back to camp and tuned the bows, and I was shooting like well and truly high. So I should have shot it before, because we had arrived so late on that first day. I just hadn't done it. Like, and I probably should have just done it at like 20 under a spotlight or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
But in the morning, we were just so keen to get out, and it obviously was just like a rookie error. But
so what happened? Had your whole sight dropped?
yeah, so my whole sight had just, I guess, been knocked out.
Yeah.
And caused me to shoot. Like, so yeah, it would have been knocked down, which means when I went to shoot, I would have lifted it up more, and thought that I was, set perfectly for the range, and ended up shooting over its back. So we went back and then tuned it at lunch and had a feed, and then that afternoon we went out, and like, I guess the biggest thing, like with the trip that we ended up finding quite hard was because there was so little cover, you run out of light in the afternoons pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. Like, you'll be stalking and you'll get into like 50, but you need to sort of like take a step crawling like every second. Every like minute, because there's something looking at you, and then it's like staring at you. So you wait 2 minutes and then it stops looking. So you do another little shuffle and you only gain like 10 inches. And then, some of the hinds pick you up, and then so it's very slow, and then you end up getting into like 30, but you run out of light and you can't see. Mm. And even if you got into 30, you're lying flat out on your guts. And so what we ended up doing was we ended up making these like big stone blinds and walls and stuff that we could sort of use to stalk in on or sit next to and try and get like bucks to walk up to us.
So you just did that in the middle of the day one day?
Yeah, literally. Like, I mean, because it's the thing, like and that's what I was saying, like it's challenging because like if you scare them all off, if you scared them all off and then walked 300 meters up the mountain and sat there, all the young bucks and a few of the does and spikers and stuff would be back within half an hour.
So they're not too worried about the scent or anything like that. Like, they're not that pressured.
No. Well, that's just where they rut. Like, like you could scare them off, go and sit up on the hill, come back, and 2 hours later, and probably half of them would be there like throughout the middle of the day. Scare them off again and come back. So like that's the thing. Like, you get plenty of opportunities. I guess like the bigger bucks are the hardest, because like if you scare them, they actually legitimately leave and they don't come back until like last light. And the thing is, like, you need to sort of be there and like in the sort of circle of the deer. Like, you need to be within range of like the center of the leks, because they literally walk in. They have their own, like they have their like, put it this way, you can stand in one scrape and then jump, and you're going to like land in one of 3 scrapes around you, and then you jump again, you land in one of 3. Like, there's just scrapes everywhere. Like you're taking step, scrape, and there's just broken antlers everywhere on this open hill face, because all they do is stand in their leks, stand in their scrapes in the leks and croak and fight. And the biggest bucks want to be in the center, like the center. So what we were doing was like most of the boys set up like rock blinds or like lines of some description close to the center. So then that way, like, you'd rock up, and then like late morning or like mornings, we'd sort of hunt them as they left the leks, and then like arbos would go and sit in our blinds and allow the bucks to sort of come to us, because we know they're going to end up there, because it was just too hard. Like, it was too hard stalking in on that many deer with no cover.
Yeah. You keep saying lek. What's a lek? Like, as in hard clay?
So no. So a lek is known as a lek is a rutting stand. Okay. So a lek, like some people, so Macca had said and Jerry had said they'd seen it in South Australia. Like, I think I've heard Craig talking on Hunting Camp down there. So like a lek is like a big rutting stand where the fallow will come to mate. And so our leks were on the top of open hill faces. Mm-hmm. And so if you imagine like a general hill, the top, I'd say third, was literally just open rock face with rocks. Like, if you had a rock as big as a Labrador, that was like few and far between.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, most of the time you were using just purely the lay of the land.
And so there's no, like, it's not grassy hills. It's pretty much all rocky.
No,
or is it grass in between the rocks?
No, it's just like rock.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. Like, imagine trying to use only the lay of the land to stalk in on, 100 deer.
Yeah.
So often you're belly crawling up there, and then even if you use the lay of the land, you can just see their tips croaking at 30 or something. Like, if you could shoot 50 with the bow, it'd increase your odds significantly. Yeah. But then you've also got to because you're paying for your trophies. Like, if you wound one and don't find it, you've got to pay for 50% of your trophy. Yeah, well, or what the guide assumes that buck was. So, it can be quite expensive if you just lob an arrow. So if you're confident at 50, like, go for it. But anyway, like, for me, I generally always shoot less than 30. So, like, that was what I planned to do. And you get to 30 and you might have the buck croaking broadside or even facing away from you, but you've got X amount of deer also sitting facing towards you. So, you almost have to wait for them to be fight. Like, our only opportunities really was if the buck that you want to shoot starts fighting some other buck, and then you can sort of pop up and try and shoot him with everything else, like because they're so engaged in fighting, everything else sees you and sort of half runs off, but they fight, and then as soon as they stop fighting, you can hopefully get an arrow away.
Yeah.
And so that tactic worked with like a few of the fellas, but most of us, to be honest, end up shooting them from our like rock blinds and stuff. So I end up, so like for 2 days, I end up missing another buck on the third afternoon. I shot low underneath him, and then
Was it
on the
just
last,
a misrange or?
Yeah, just a completely misrange. Like it was very last light, pretty much. He just started fighting another buck, and I thought he was about. Honestly, I thought he was about 20 meters. Like he seemed like he was right on top of me, but it was probably 30. And I was shooting uphill, and I remember just aiming for like the bottom of his heart, and I had like the silhouette of the sun behind him. And I remember just shooting and just watching the arrows go straight like under him and just like keep flying off. And I was like, okay, goodbye.
Maria.
Yeah. But yeah, and then so we ended up I was the only one by that stage who hadn't shot a buck.
Mm-hmm.
So Jerry had shot one, Brad had shot one, Brad might have even shot two. Brad ended up shooting two, Nick shot one real nice one, and Jerry and I both shot one. But I ended up going to, because my issue was my lek was a bit bigger than the other boys. Like the other boys might have been, like, so the lek that I was hunting might have been the size of like an AF or like a rugby or an AFL football size on top of this mountain. And so there'd be like 200 deer or 300 deer going to it, but they'd like the biggest, but like the center of the lek where you set up like the biggest buck would like move.
Yeah.
And so like I would set my blind up for the afternoon out of rocks, which like I'd just pile up on top of each other. And then they would shift just say 100 meters to my right or my left or whatever, which would like put me well and truly out of my range unless they like walked past. So like that was really frustrating. Whereas the other boys, their leks were sort of like the size of sort of, I guess, two tennis courts running like parallel to each other.
Yeah.
So like if you set up in the center of that, like you're well and truly within 30 or 40 of, and like if you set up in the center, like the bucks are going to come to the center, and so you're going to be right on them. Mm-hmm. And so Jerry was kind enough to say, "Oh look, mate, you can come hunt my spot," and I ended up sitting in his blind, and there was one real big buck that I wanted to shoot, like an actual monster, like bigger than the ones I'd seen on my lek, or probably as big as the biggest one, down in the gully, and he was going to come up. I was waiting for him to sort of come up at last light, and I was watching him. But then, I don't know, like there's wolves and jackals there and stuff, and everything sort of down below me started honking and whatnot. And there was one real nice buck that I've been watching all night. Like he'd been there for like 45 minutes. Jerry actually missed him a couple of days before, I think. But yeah, we both liked him because he was like he had real nice palms. When I actually showed him, he'd broken his left palm a little bit, like some of the spellers at the back. But he came in almost to the point that it was like he probably scores poorly, I think, because I think he ended up measuring between the two antlers. But he probably scored poorly in that. But they almost touched, like his two main beams were probably only like 8 inches apart, which is like I really liked. He just came up and he was an absolute scrapper. Like he just, as soon as he rocked up, he's like flogging some other deer, and then he ran off and he started flogging some other deer. I'm like, okay, you're pretty cool. And then, so I ended up shooting him from, I think it was like 16 meters or 18 meters, somewhere there. Like I didn't range him, it was pretty close. I enjoyed that hunt the most, to be honest, probably because obviously I got to shoot him. But just, like, because you're just like in the action, like, because the lek's so much smaller, like, as soon as I got into that blind, within 20 minutes, I had bucks back there at like 20 meters just croaking and fighting. And it's just like the atmosphere is just like so hard to describe. Like it's, I know that the film that we put out, like I'm trying to do it justice, but it's just like, if it's something that, if you love chasing fallow deer, like you've got to get over there and sort of experience it for yourself. And like, it is quite, like it's it's an expensive hunt, but it certainly doesn't like break the bank. It's probably like for most people, it's probably going to be the big hunt that they do for the year. But like the experience is pretty, it's unreal.
Do you pay a set fee, or is that kind of like you pay per?
No, so it's not. So you pay like the guiding fee, like the I wouldn't say the consultation fee, but That's just from work. But you pay you pay the
time
you
for
pay
the guide and the food.
yeah,
and
you
everything
pay
else.
like a guiding fee and for the hospitality and the service and whatnot, and where you're staying and the translator and stuff. So that's all one fee wrapped up. And then the way that you pay for your trophy is actually on weight. So they clean the skull and boil it, and then they weigh it. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. So like the stag that I shot ended up weighing 3.4 kilos, which I don't know. Like it's an interesting thing. Like it's interesting how they do it because my buck was very heavy, which cost me a fair bit of money for his size because he was just so like all his like his palms and everything was just so So like which doesn't make like his
And was that with him missing some of his antlers as well?
Yeah, so that was him missing probably. It wasn't a heap of his palm. He's probably only missing like I think it was missing 3 spells on one side, and maybe like an area of like maybe 2 inches deep and maybe like 6 inches long of palm.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a huge, when you're talking about something that has probably like I want to say like 20-inch palms, not like a big area, but certainly big enough. But yeah, it was just a cool deer, man. Like, and it was just like I don't know, like it was about shooting something huge, but it's like the hunt in itself is so rewarding. Like, and it's so you learn a lot, and you just I don't know. Like it made me a better fallow hunter here because you just get to witness so many more animal behaviors that you just don't get to see. It was like watching a documentary, but being there, like they're screaming at you rather than. Yeah.
So that like, did you find that your patience was wearing thin the further the hunt went along? Like, were you kind of more willing to shoot anything, or was it making?
Yes and no, but I guess you get so many opportunities. Like, you're not really like even on the last arvo. Put it this way, like I was not stressed about not getting a deer.
Yeah.
Like it's like if you go there and you've never shot a deer before, like I guarantee you shoot a deer. Like you're blind if you don't. So I was never once worried that I would never get a deer. It was more just like the caliber or the size of the deer that you shoot. Like it's like I said earlier, like everyone sort of wants to shoot the biggest and the best and the gnarliest and whatnot. And so like I was watching that other buck. Like I was the one that I said I ended up shooting. Like I had him in front of me videoing him at 20 meters fighting bucks for like 45 minutes, and I didn't. Like I was like, if this other one doesn't come in, I'll definitely shoot him. And then he started coming up, and like I said, they started all the does and everything down below were barking and stuff, and I was like, what is going on down there? And then he sort of deviated, and I lost him in the thick stuff, and I probably only had like if it wasn't my last arvo, I probably wouldn't have shot that other buck.
Yeah,
like
you had a wolf tag, didn't you, as well?
Yeah, you can shoot whatever. So like a wolf's $1,000. Like there was like Casey saw wild boar there. There was red deer there. I saw a pretty nice red stag. It was maybe, I want to say like small for there, but like bloody good for here. It was probably like 35 inches and I think like 5'5" or 5'6" or something like that.
Yeah, well.
Which over there, they're like, I showed him the video. I was like, oh, it's good. And he's like, oh. Like, he's like, oh, it's probably like 2. Like, anyway, it's sort of like New Zealand, really. Like they get huge reds over there. Yeah. But it's just genetic. Like it's just selective breeding and genetics and whatnot. Like, it's pretty interesting. Like Robbie's probably shot I want to say the best out of the group, and he's had like a massive, well, not a massive cleft, but a pretty cool cleft. And they were like, oh yeah, like it was a good one to shoot to like get out of there. Like they like grade them on like color and like, and yeah, like they don't like everything over there is mental. Like everything is a like replicated copy of the next buck. Like, they were like, oh, your buck's too light. Like, that's how heavy the selection has been over there. Like if you see a black deer, you can shoot it for free.
And so like a white deer or a black deer, is that essentially like a genetic mutation?
Oh, it's just a different expression of the phenotype. Like it's all.
So it's not actually anything wrong with the deer.
No, God no. God no.
That's so bizarre that they want to get rid of it then.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's just, but that's how it is. Like I guess it's designed for. Like the hunting selection is, it's designed for like trophy, but also like color selection and body size. Like they do body measurements and stuff, like in skull. Yeah, like it's a whole. It's not just the antlers; it's everything. But yeah, like I just found it so interesting that like they were so heavy that on color selection. Like I saw one black deer, and it was like a 1-year-old buck, and they were like, "If you see it, go kill it." And I don't like because they just don't want because obviously that there's two recessive animals that carry black traits that are bred, and then they've had a black baby or black black coated buck, and now he's obviously dominant. So if he starts throwing around his genetics, then obviously the trait increases. But it was just incredible, like how different it was with even like we score off points and stuff, and they do too, but like they don't use SCI or Douglas points. Like their scoring system is completely different, and like weight is obviously like a big part of it. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. And
like
so
it's
what
all
happens
very
with
different.
like what? Firstly, like how you shot your deer at 16, 17 meters. How long did you see it go down in sight or?
Yeah, so I saw it go down and then I ended up stalking in and putting another one into it because I pretty much broke both it. So I ended up missing its heart by like putting into anything, and I shot it. So when I shot it, I broke both its humeruses, if people know the anatomy. Mm-hmm. And it literally buckled and like could not support its weight. It went like 40 meters and bedded down.
Yeah.
And so I ended up just pretty much, because it did that, I was like, look, I'll just, stalk in and shoot it again. So I shot it again. And then they eat all the meat, like you eat venison while you're in camp and stuff too, which obviously I eat venison a shitload and really appreciated. And so like we were eating like trout and fish and stuff that they caught in the lake in the front of the camp.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, they end up, so the guide calls someone and then they get in like a group of fellas will come down and they'll literally butcher it there, and then they'll like tie it up, like crucifix it, and they'll carry the whole deer out.
Yeah, wow.
And then so if you want to cape it and take the cape, like so I just did a Euro mount of mine. If you want to take the cape, then I think it's an extra fee, like $100 maybe or something like that. But anyway, so they cape it too for you. And then what's the thing? Like I wanted to help carry out my deer, and it's like, oh no, it's all good. Like I'm like, no, it's all good. Like
And it's almost like it's almost disrespectful for you to go and do that because they're getting paid for it, right?
It felt like I don't know, like so, and so Jerry was with me at the time. He ended up coming and giving me a hand. Well, he was hunting further, like a little bit further down the gully, but we both sort of helped carry out my deer, which I appreciate. But because there's just so many handles you can hold on to when you cruise, like when you tied it all up. So yeah, we all just carried it out, and then we put it in one of the utes and took it back to camp, and you boil your skull out and stuff. But one of the big things, I guess, was they had to get a vet check to get a license to send them on a plane. So we ended up initially, because we were the second group, we were going to try and organise to take everyone's skulls back. But because of that, they didn't get the licensing that was required, and so we ended up having to send bloody Benny. So Ben volunteered, but we ended up all chipping in money and sending Benny Solaris back to Bulgaria literally a day. So we flew like 23 hours, spent a day in Bulgaria, got all our heads, and then flew like 23 hours home.
With what, 6, 7 heads?
No, God, no, it was a shitload because he had a couple other clients through Silent Pursuits that he'd organised heads. So we ended up having Macca shot 2, Dill shot 1, Robbie shot 1, so there was 4, and then I think we might have had 5. So there's 9 fallow, plus he had another 3 fallow hunters, a red deer, a mouflon, chamois, and a boar.
Far out.
Pretty, yeah. I think we ended up costing us about $300 or maybe a bit more each for the flight and the excess coverage.
Yeah.
Because obviously there was 10 hunters. It was sort of that was end up being, because we looked at getting crate. But yeah, that was end up being the cheapest option. Obviously someone just had to sacrifice their mental health a bit to go and sit on a plane for 48 hours almost back to back. Your body's jet lag and whatnot, wouldn't know what to do. You'd be like, oh, I'm screwed. Anyway, aeroplane, bloody airport food for 2 days.
Have you got it back yet? Your head?
Yeah, I've got my head back. Yeah, I haven't posted that much about this hunt actually. I've sort of done little snippets and stuff on Instagram, and I did sort of a bit of a live feed while I was there. But I need to finish this video that I'm sort of working on with Aiden and I at the moment. But work's just been a bit crazy, and hopefully early next year we'll start putting videos out, but I'll also have this one done. So
I remember seeing the stories you were putting up on Insta.
Yeah.
And just remember seeing like the silhouettes, literally how you're talking, like silhouettes of just many bucks around you just croaking, just absolutely insane.
Stupid. Like it's just, and that's the thing. Like if you like there's people out there that I know like that just have such a passion for fallow deer or such a passion for reds, or if you're one of those people, or even if you just want to experience like a, like I said, it's so to put it into perspective. So I think it ended up costing me $1,500 for flights. I want to say it was about $3,000 total for the whole. I'm talking Australian dollars here too now, people, but about $3,000 total for the hunting, for the 4 days and the accommodation, and we had like a night layover in a hotel and everything like that, like in the transport and everything. So that's like covers everything. That's like the tip when like you need to give them. So one thing as well is you need to take over, like they're big on tipping.
Yeah.
So we all got $300 US changed at the airport, and like I tip my guy a couple $100, and you tip like the cooks, and you tip the butchering guys, and you tip the waiters and whatever. Like you tip everyone. So you need to take money over for that. So we all tipped $300 US. And then my buck ended up costing me about $3,500. But that was quite, so you're looking at sort of $8,000 plus maybe $8,000 to $9,000. But my buck cost a shitload more. So most of the bucks, I'd say, so Benny Solaris, I think his buck ended up costing like $4,500, because it's sort of with the, like when you get on the big end of the side of the bucks, it ends up being like, they'll charge, like, if it's so like with Benny Solaris, it's like, okay, it's a record, so you get plus 10%. If it's bigger than this much, you get plus 10%. Like it ends up being, like it's sort of like very manageable, shitload expensive. Like, it just like skyrockets once you get to a certain point. And so my buck, where I became undone a little bit, was like, my buck was like a really good, respectable buck. Like it was a nice buck, but he also was just super heavy. And so like my buck probably on size probably should have cost me $2,000, but he was just really heavy. And so he cost me $3,500, which like, like that is, I shot him because it was an LED, like that's part of the attraction of what I liked. But yeah, like, I mean, like if you went over there, you'd probably be looking at like $2,000 or $2,500 a buck. So, you put it in perspective like that, you're probably looking at like a $7,000 hunt to go and shoot a fallow.
Which is really quite reasonable compared to, like, really, you can do hunts more expensive just in Australia. Different
for
animals,
sure.
But
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You can go hunt buck for $7,000. So, like, I mean, if you were going to tack it on as a holiday and go traveling through Europe, like that's what Nick ended up doing. Like Nick ended up going to Amsterdam all through Europe afterwards. But yeah, like, I mean, if you were going to go to Europe with family and stuff and had some spare coin to splash around, you could definitely go and plan a trip there. But I guess like I reckon I'll definitely go back to Bulgaria and hunt on maybe Mouflon or something like that at one stage. And the chamois is super affordable. Reds are similar. Like they do theirs on weight too. So it's like a red deer. I think it ends up, don't quote me, but like as it gets up to like 9 or 10 kilos, like as the skull gets to about 9 or 10 kilos, it dramatically starts getting more expensive. Mm-hmm. And then like 11 and 12 kilo is like, pretty like, you're talking like $10,000 plus just for the deer.
Yeah.
But they're also monster deer. So like, it depends. But so that was like where you hunt the reds is earlier in the season. Like you hunt them sort of end of September, and you hunt them in like a completely different region. Like the fallow deer come to this region to rut, and then the bucks literally like, you get to, it's sort of like hunting in New South Wales and whatnot, and even, like most of the places really, like as soon as the rut's over, like the bucks and the reds just completely disappear. Like they just go somewhere else to grow out their antlers and velvet and sort of fatten up again and whatnot, like sort of move down to the lower country, they were saying, getting on the creeks and stuff. But like, I mean, it's just even there's really cool mouflon, really cool chamois in Bulgaria, and like the wild boar, wolf. Like none of us shot a wolf, but there's coyotes there. It was pretty funny actually. Saw a just like a normal red fox, like what you'd see in Victoria over there. But yeah, like
Start blowing some kisses.
yeah, no, we were driving through some farmland, and I was like, what the hell is that? I was like, it looks like a fox. And he's like, and then I tapped him and pointed thing, and he's like, yeah, it's a fox. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, right. I guess it's like European fox, and we were in Europe, like it's sort of duh. But you know, I'm like, yeah, good one.
Man, I actually saw, so there was a fox dead on the road the other day. It was fresh hit, like probably done within a few hours. Drove past it. This is just in Brizzy City. And then I drove past an hour and a half later, maybe, and it had been moved, like completely removed from the road and just taken. I'm like, that's pretty odd. Like, you see dead possums all the time. You see dead kangaroos all the time. They never get moved at all. But as soon as there's a fox, it's like gone straight up. I just wondered if it was like actually a wildlife person that was kind of like, oh, we don't want people knowing there's foxes here, or if there was, some other reason to it.
No one wanted the skin.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Sent to the taxidermist.
Yeah, that's it.
So,
but yeah, I'm not sure.
Did Kalen, the guy, did he have much to do to help you? Like,
Kalen was, we had, it was actually, there's, the structure of it was a bit different to when Brad and Ben went the year before. So the structure of it is you've got the guides who are mainly Bulgarian and speak Bulgarian. You still there?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I just couldn't hear anything.
Blanked out.
And then, so you've got the guys who are mainly Bulgarian, mainly speak Bulgarian. Like, my guide was actually pretty good. Like, he could speak like German and Bulgarian, and like he had literally sheets of paper that were all different languages that he could speak, and like expressions that he could speak from each language. And so he'd just like point to things and stuff. But so they all spoke various levels of English. And then there was Kalen, who was sort of, I guess, like the head guide, but also our interpreter, and so he could speak really good English. And then there was also Anton, who was a new manager for like the whole hunting consultant. Like, it's who Benny sort of contracts for is his name's Constantine, but he's Bulgarian Hunt Services. So Anton actually works as a manager for this site from them, and he spoke awesome English. Like, so we had plenty of people, because I guess that's the thing. Like, if you don't have, it's sort of hard if you can't speak to the people and can't communicate things. But we had like plenty, like they could speak more fluent English than me half the time. And so it was really good. Like, and we, so Kalen doesn't actually go hunting, and neither does Anton. They're just waiting for you back at base. And
gotcha.
Like, like we all just have dinners tonight.
But as a guide, like, are they helping you out much, or is it pretty much they put you in the location and that's it?
Yeah, like they're pretty much just showing you where the leks are and stuff, and like you talk to them, and like I guess we were used to hunting the fallow over here, so we would be like, I'm going to go like you'd see a big buck over the next ridge, and you're like, it's going to take me 45 minutes to get there. And my guy would be like, he's going to come here tonight. Like, we were so frustrated because they just wanted us to hunt the leks, and we were so frustrated because all we wanted to do was like run around the mountains like what we do in Australia. Yeah. Like, we were hunting dumb, but it was just like all we knew. And they were just like, mate, if you just sit here for another 2 hours, you're going to be over there and he's going to be over here. Like, so yeah, they got a bit frustrated with us, and we got frustrated, but they just let you do whatever you want to do. So like, it's very, there's probably people freaking out being like, oh my God, he's a guide hunt, but it's not like that at all. Like they literally are just driving you to the spot, and they will, hold your hand, or they will guide you as much as you want to be guided. Yeah. Like, they're almost just like, so for most of us, because we're all quite confident hunters and we've been sort of doing it for a little bit, we were all pretty content with just, especially with me, because I was trying to film stuff, like it was sort of hard. Like he was filming too, which was cool, but I was pretty content to just do it all on my own, because I didn't really, like having me trying to video, which was almost like a second person there anyway, with a big dangly tripod, and then having him sitting behind me sort of probably not appreciating as much like how quiet I feel with the bow. Like, it sort of would have been hard, but he was awesome.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
He was, yeah. So yeah, but it's not really like, I wouldn't say it's a fully guided hunt. It's more just like someone making sure that you're eating and drinking and getting taken to the right spots and going to the right spots and stuff, because it's all like, it's sort of hunting. It's almost like hunting a unit really in the US. Like, there was, where we were hunting was like they had reserved, so the company who we were hunting through had reserved the right to that area. Mm-hmm. And so like my lek, for example, like he's like, you can go one ridge that way, but you can't go 2 ridges that way.
Yeah.
Like, cause he's like, then that's someone else's hunting spot, you know, like then you can't. So yeah, so it's sort of, yeah, it's good. And then he was like, he's advised you, like you look at a buck together and through like a spotting scope or through, you know, the cameras or whatever, and he'd be like, nah, too small. Like, or like they call them students, the student. He's like, nah, student. He's like, yeah, he's only little.
Yeah.
He's like, let him, you know, plenty of time to grow. So, and then he'd be like, big papa for the big one. He was a weapon. I actually miss him. That's how much I really appreciated him.
I often hear you saying that about me.
Yeah, I actually do say that about you too. But he was, yeah, for someone that I don't know, like it's just sort of we're two people that have been brought together for, you know, obviously I was paying him to be there, but you're two people that have been brought together for a love of hunting.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't really, you know, like we were sort of, you know, we were 30 years apart in age too. Like he was sort of in his mid 50s, but like, and we could barely speak, but we worked so hard on trying to communicate, and like, just, you know, every day it was like full of laughs, and it was just, yeah, it was, you know, and then another thing, it just added to the experience that much more. Like it wasn't, you know, like we are going over there to try and shoot the biggest and these monster bucks, but that's what, like, I guess I'm trying to sell to the listeners here. Like it was made that much better through all the other little extra things. Like I really appreciated the food. I appreciated like the staff, and like I appreciated the atmosphere and the culture and the guides and the, you know, like just the landscape that you're hunting is very different to what we're used to here. Like, and so it just makes for like a very eye-opening and enjoyable hunt.
Yeah. I think it's cool to witness exactly what you did in regards to like language only gets you so far. Like there's so much more you can communicate through just posture and like gestures and like,
definitely
bits and pieces. Yeah. Even eyes, like looking in certain directions or whatever. Like, yeah.
Sorry, just drinking some water. But yeah, thumbs up and thumbs down became a very important, very important form of communication. But yeah, I was like, even like I said earlier in this podcast, like we'd get back and we'd been trying to have a conversation, and then he'd come back and be like, okay, ask those 10 questions that you wanted answers to again now, and we'll work through it. You know, like yeah. So he was a legend. But yeah, it was a really good hunt.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so one thing you said that stuck out was that it's changed the way you're going to hunt fallow here. What differences are you going to make now that you're back in Australia?
Oh, I guess just with like calling deer, like, and just sort of knowing their behaviours about how they work on leks and whatnot. Like, I think I stop saying leks. How they work with their scrapes, and like how their affinity to their scrapes and how much they really sort of just go to them, and also like how the hinds actually go to the bucks and stuff. Like, so a lot of the times, you know, like it's, you know, like often in Australia we hind call and expect the buck to run up to us, which, you know, they do a fair bit. But like, you know, it just made me think, like, when you've got that buck that's just held up there and he's not coming to you and he's just croaking at you, it's like, well, that's because he's expecting you to walk up to him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that type of thing. And then just like, even just hind calling, like just how they hind call and yeah, like, I don't know, just like other, like raking trees and other non-verbal signs.
Like rattling's pretty big for fallow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge, and especially in Australia, like a lot of people use rattling, but it's also a pretty good way of educating deer. Like, you know, if you rattle in a young buck, and then generally you're rattling in a spot because it's probably a pretty good area, you got good visibility, and there's a scrape somewhere within sight, you know, so rattling sort of, like the older bucks generally, if they've been rattled in when they're younger, they don't really respond, or they might run in and then stop and sort of look at you. So if you've got a bow, like it's, you know, they're normally without a range, or yeah, they might cruise. I don't know. Like, yeah, they're all like rattling. I guess one of the big things just sort of raking a tree with an antler, or raking a bush with an antler, like something. So it's sort of like like it's like a more inquisitive, like what's happening over there. And like, you know, they probably don't think that, just because you think how many times during the rut they're raking trees. like, so if you see a buck leaving a scrape, if you go up there and you've seen him walk off, but you don't really know where he's going in thick bush, like raking a tree fairly loudly on his spot and getting ready, like he's going to be like, okay, what bastard's just coming trying to steal my, like I've been sitting here waiting for ages, and now some, little punks walk into my spot, or even going back there and just time calling and stuff, and he's like, I would have just missed that girl that just rocked up, So
yeah, I was quite blown away with like how bang on their hearing is. Like,
it doesn't take much.
reds. Yeah, I called a red, 2 valleys across, and he just straight up to me like he knew exactly where he was going.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Like when I guess with calling, like that's just more calling anything. Like I generally try and get cover behind me and in front of me if I can, but at least behind me, because often if you're calling something, like if you haven't called in foxes, like, and you want to get better at calling stuff, call in foxes, because it's like if you can set up a good funnel in a good spot in where reading animal behavior, where you expect a fox to come from and when you're going to draw and where it's going to run, and it's not going to pin you at 60 because you're standing at the only tree on the edge of a fence line. Like, like if you can get all that stuff right, like you can call in fallow and reds and, chittle and I don't really know. Like I've never really called in the Samba, but yeah, like, people have. But yeah, like if you can call in anything. So like the fundamental principles of setting up, and I mean, like it's probably a great podcast for someone that's a lot better at it than me to talk about. But yeah, like if you can call in those basic just foxes and whatnot, like you'll be able to call, like the same principles apply for any species.
Yeah.
And that's half of it. Like you can be the best caller and know exactly what everything sounds like, but if you're standing in the wrong spot and you don't have it, like if you've got too much cover and you don't have a shooting lane, or if you've got not enough cover and they walk into 50 and bust you, well, it doesn't really matter how good you are at calling. So,
man, I was spewing. Me and my mate went to a property recently and I missed my first fox. I shot underneath him.
But, bugger.
Yeah, I know. I was pretty bummed. He was a very healthy looking fox too, but we just called him in. It was so cool. He came running straight up. Like we actually saw what I would think is the biggest cat I've ever seen. Like it was absolute monster, just walking along this log. I'm like, fuck, dude, let's get the whistle out and we'll call it. So we just got into some shade and had some trees behind us both, and started whistling. And it's just the cat was nowhere to be seen, but within like maybe 20 seconds, this fox just boom straight up the hill, like sprinted for us. It was awesome. Like it's really cool to see.
I've said it on multiple podcasts, but I love whistling in foxes. Like love whistling in foxes. Like anyone invites me on a fox whistling hunt, I'm like, man, I'll be there. Like especially if you've got like a pretty high, like a pretty good spot, like it's just like you're sitting there, like you're all set up and you're doing it and you're doing it and you're doing it, and you're like, you've done maybe like 2 sets of 15-second whistles, like a minute apart, or and you're like, oh shit, maybe nothing's going to come in. And then you just see that orange blob just 70 meters just jump through the grass once, and you're like, oh, we're on. Like, it's almost like a sigh of relief. It's almost mixed in a sigh of relief with excitement. Yeah. Like, it's just like, oh, thank God, there's something coming. And then it's just like, but it's coming. Like, get ready. Like, stop being an idiot. And then if you shoot one and there's another one coming in, or if you see like, I don't know, it's just, like, it's awesome. Yeah, I'll genuinely, the day I stop liking whistling foxes is the day I'll probably stop bow hunting, I reckon. Because it's just, I get excited and I get adrenaline, or, like an adrenaline rush every time I whistle in fox. So,
that's cool. Yeah, it's definitely something I want to do more of.
It's just, I mean, that's the thing, like with the fellas in Queensland, it's sort of, I know there is spots and whatnot, but I guess you've probably got howling and dingoes as your closest next thing, which I've done a bit of too, but that's, they, which is also cool because they're sort of responding to you when you're howling and stuff most of the time. But yeah, it's just different, but it's still fun.
Man, I was with a few rifle hunters once, and we had a whole mountain. Like, we've obviously found where the den of all these wild dogs are, and they were just going insane. Like, it was, we had one come in, we shot one, then there was one sitting on the hill still calling, and we eventually called it in at the same time. There was 2 others that had come in. And so they shot 2 more, and then one of the guys had taken a shot, but as he shot, the wild dog had stood up, and it shot, like, got his front leg rather than getting through the chest. And so it's injured and run off up this hill, and one of the boys has run up after it trying to take his next shot. he's got up there and he's like, man, there's like actually dens and stuff. Like there's literally things through there. And as he was walking up there, he could hear we could hear them all just all howling and going nonstop. He's like, it sounded like they were kind of surrounding me and stuff. He's like, I had to get out of there. I was just too freaked out.
Yeah, right. See, I've never felt threatened. Like we've seen pretty big mobs here in Queensland, or packs, I guess, of wild dogs, you know, like talking 8 to 10 dogs. And I've never really felt threatened personally. But you certainly hear of big mobs or big packs of wild dogs. But yeah, like even like, you know, we've had them vocalizing all around us, and especially if you sort of shoot one, they don't know what's happening and they run off and, you know, like they're all going. It's sort of beautiful in a way, but
yeah, it is.
Like the sound.
I've heard of it as if it's as if the well, in particular for wolves in the States, that's them counting off. Like, all right, let's howl just to check who's here.
I'd believe it. Well, that's the thing. Like a lot of the time, I have success howling them in is when they're when they start like looking for mates and whatnot, sort of like early winter, like April, May and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's a time I personally find like where they're hunting chittle deer. And then the other time is sort of when the water really starts to dry up, because the dingoes sort of have to congregate around those bigger water sources. Like even most of the rivers where we hunt sort of around charters and whatnot have dried up. So a lot of the bigger lakes and dams and stuff, they'll be hitting frequently because they know that, you know, the pigs and roos and whatnot have to be congregated there too.
Yeah.
And then you've got, you know, like you might have multiple pairs of dogs hunting the same spot. And so, you know, you'll shoot something and then howl, and then like you're trying to replicate one dog howling to its partner, but you know, you get a whole new set of partners coming in because they're like, oh, who's on our turf sort of hunting stuff, and can we push them off a kill? So that's like another time that we've found is pretty successful. But yeah, I mean, if you hear a dog, like you also get like the 3/4 grown pups coming through sort of that late summertime that are going off by themselves, or they're still running around with mum and dad. So like howling then, you know, you sort of like, you can sort of be one of the pups in a bit of distress, or, you know, mum and dad, where are you? So they generally howl back, or they'll come pretty inquisitively in to have a look. And like I guess with the bow, like there's multiple times that Aiden and I have shot, you know, multiple dogs from a pack, because you'll shoot one and that if you shoot them right, they'll die within a couple of seconds and they'll only make it 30 or 40 meters. So the rest of the dogs they sort of bite them as they're dying.
Wow.
Which I'm not going to sort of anthropomorphize and try and pretend like it's anything. Like I'm not even going to pretend to think that I know what's going on in their head. But yeah, so they'll bite them while they're sort of dead or dying. And so it gives you a pretty good opportunity to sort of get in there and try and get another one. But and we've done it multiple times. Like we've sort of doubled down a couple of times now. We're doing that.
Dude, that's so interesting. We actually we had a dog trainer come in for our dog, and he's in charge of, like, he trains the trainers within the military and stuff. Like, he's kind of top dog within Australia for training people. We had no idea before we got him in. We just knew that we needed to get someone in to help us out. And he kind of explained it like dogs don't have reason. Like people have reason to their thinking, and dogs just see like a good or a bad. And he's like, they can count to 2, and anything after 2 it happens all the time. So for us and our dog, it was like we had to let her know that it was bad once, and then let her know that it was bad twice. And if we let her know that it was bad 3 times, in her head, it's now that happens something bad happens every time that happens, or every time that I do this. So it's pretty interesting in regards to actually seeing how the training's working, and it's been working really well with most of the things. But it's like you have to catch her in particular doing the same thing very close together, like almost consecutively. But like it can't just be like, okay, well, she's barking. It's like, okay, well, she's barking at a bird that's swooping her, so you need to get in trouble. She needs to get in trouble for that, and then she needs to get in trouble for that 2 more times before she kind of drills into her brain. But it's just very interesting to kind of hear that training side, and people, because we think with reason, that's how we think that most things think. We're like, well, it's doing this because of that, and it's like, no, there's no because of. It's just doing this.
Oh, that's right. We're the only animals that have that really in-depth sort of choice pathway, especially about the things that we eat and whatnot. Like, and especially, I guess, we let our emotions sort of influence our decisions a lot more than I think than most other species in the animal kingdom. And then we also put those emotions into our animals and pretend to know their behaviour. Especially wild animals, and it's sort of just, I don't know, bit of a joke, really.
It's and really that's why you've got the division between humans.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why you've got division between everything within humans, religion, like anything that comes down to people fighting about, really.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
There you go. Well, dude, thanks. It's been good. It's good to know about Bulgaria. We'll have to do it again for your buff trip, and then again for Chittle stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, what's the thing? Hopefully with 2020, we're in 2020 still now, but I had 4 New Zealand trips lined up. 4 New Zealand trips lined up this year, which I only got to do, I only got to do 1. So next year, hopefully, I'll do the tar ballad, and I wouldn't mind going over to chase some early velvet reds, and then reds in the rut maybe, and then I want to go hunt some turkeys.
In New Zealand?
Yeah, in New Zealand, I got a mate. Apparently, they just run wild over there. But yeah, I've got a couple of recipes I want to try with turkeys that would be pretty cool. But he reckons I'll get sick of it shooting turkeys in a day with the bow. So I'm happy to see if he's right. I just, like that gobble and just like, like, I don't know.
Have you heard on Meat Eater how they talk about the different things that they hear turkeys gobbling to?
Oh,
it's like trains driving by, or like someone screeching the brakes.
I'll post a video and I'll tag you in it. But there's so many dairies up here that I'm working on that have turkeys, and they shock or whatever is shock or shot gobble at everything.
Yeah.
I was teaching a bunch of students the other day. I had 4 students in the car, and I was like, "You want to see a cool trick?" No, yeah. And I just like banged on the tin shed, and then like there was like 4 gobblers, and like all just like sounded off at the same time, and I'm like, they're just like looking at me like I'm absolute loony, and I'm like, "This is the best thing ever."
That's great.
Yeah, I was like frothing it so hard, and they're like, "Mate, you need to get your produce sorted and go and talk to someone because you messed up. You're real messed up."
No, I've got this shit.
But yeah, next year there's a shitload of stuff I want to do. I sort of want to work hard and play even harder, but there's a lot of hunts I want to go to the NT and do buff again, and I'll probably try and do a heap between here and New Zealand, and then maybe the year after. Oh, I want to go to the US next year too. Jesus, it's packing up pretty quick.
Well, man, I don't know based on what's going on with the world, but I don't see the international flights opening too soon.
Oh, I don't see it either. Well, lucky we've got plenty of stuff to do in Australia, but
yeah, exactly. But I mean, if you wiped the US out, you've still got enough to go do.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if I could get to New Zealand, I'd be stoked. I actually want to walk the length of New Zealand at the end of next year. So
that's sick. That's a cool.
I reckon that would take me about 3 months, about 30 k's a day. So if I can do that, then I'll do it, and then I'll probably get a van for a month and do a heap of hunting. So if anyone's over there that wants a hunting partner, reach out. More than happy to run cameraman and go catch some trout and whatever. Pretty chill. So. Yeah, but that's probably the plan at the end of next year. But hopefully try and make a heap of videos. Aiden and I are just starting to get a little collection ready. So
that's at twin_elements.
Yeah, so sort of our little collaborative that we've got going on at the moment. So
man, by the way, like I gave you guys a lot better names than Twin Elements. You seem to turn them all down.
Mate, what are you talking about? Smash Bros is taken, all right?
I think I sent you like 30 just of the most ridiculous names ever. And you're like, what are you doing?
I was like, can I block him? Is that like appropriate? I'm like, he's my friend, but no, there was, I don't know.
Anyway.
It was pretty good. It was a lot. I appreciated them. They kept me going. Well, it was bloody frustrating me, like Hayden and I trying to come up, because every 3 days we'd come together and be like, oh, we've got, this and this and this. And we'd be like, no, stuff that. They're all shit. And then we'd start again and be like, we'd come back to ones that we thought we liked. And anyway, we ended up settling on Twin Elements, which we both really, I just sort of, it's what we are really.
Yeah.
Between like the hunting and media side, and also like the cooking side and the fishing side, like Twin Elements represent so much more than just Hayden and I. So, yeah, but hopefully next year we can really get that off the ground. Like that's the whole point of why I left my job and whatnot. And we do have a couple of videos on the go, but we're hoping to get a pretty decent stash saved up first before we start putting them out. That way, you guys are constantly seeing content. We don't want to just have some saved and then, if we get a busy pocket, Aiden's still at uni and I'm working, living life like everyone else. So we're trying to do this in our spare time. Like we're not getting any paid to do this. So,
no, exactly.
we wanted to make sure that we've actually got everything sorted so that we can regularly bring content, and hopefully like our goal is sort of at least every 2 weeks be putting a video out. So, once we think we can accomplish that, that's when we'll start putting videos out. But hopefully, early next year we'll start chucking. We've got YouTube channel, Twin Elements, and also on Instagram. So that's where we'll be chucking up most of the content. So that's, if you want to see it, that's where you'd be going.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you obviously got to enjoy doing it. So pushing it too fast is something that can burn you out. So it's making sure that you've still got life.
Especially, the hunting side's fine. It's the sitting in the laptop editing the videos. Like it's good when it's going good, and then you hit a little roadblock because you're missing footage or you can't find a song, and then you send I'll spend 4 hours trying to find a song that you like, and the whole time you just want to punch yourself in the face. Sort of that's when you're really grinding it out. And I guess the other side is, when Aiden and I guess we don't, now it's just part of what we do, but one of us has to be behind the camera when we're doing these hunts. So you don't even, we'll go on a 3-day hunt. Like the last one Aiden and I went on, we were just actually getting photo content. Like we were doing a bit of video, like I was doing videoing, but I didn't even take my phone. You've got to be pretty dedicated to it.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the other side, whereas we could smash and grab, or bloody, what is it, grip and grin? We could grip and grin so many more animals if we, I can't even think of how many hundreds of stalks we've blown just from, is the camera ready? Or, wait a sec, or whatever, just that last moment. It's so much harder moving with 2 people and just, getting the camera gear up. But it's obviously hopefully worth it in all the end, and hopefully you guys appreciate the gear that we're putting out. So.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of education. Like I definitely remember before I even met you boys, I learned a lot just from watching your films. So it's definitely doing what it's meant to do.
Oh, and that's the thing. That's every so often someone will send me a message on Instagram or whatever and be like, "Oh, thanks, man. You've taught me a lot." And I'm just like, "Oh, cheers, mate." I really appreciate it, sort of thing. And you get messages all the time being like, "Oh, I need help with this," or "Can I have some advice on this," or whatever. And you try and help as much as you can, and you make friends and other people that are interested and love the sport just as much as you, and that's sort of what it's all about, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to know you appreciate it too.
Oh, definitely. Well, you put a lot of work into it, and sort of sometimes it's just nice to be like, you're doing a decent job.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And so I think the other place for people to follow you is at James Doumtsis Outdoors. So Doumtsis is Doumtsis. And you put up some pretty good stories every once in a while when you get out and about. So it's definitely another place to follow along.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. At the moment, as we were talking about sort of before, because I'm about an hour inland from Cairns in North Queensland, working up here until the end of 2020, and then I'll be back in Townsville with my brother and maybe a bit of Vic if the borders open up. But the last sort of, I've got a mate up here with a boat, so I've been, I got into spearfishing when I was at university, and so I've just been trying to do it. One of my mates is up at the moment with a pretty good boat, so we've been trying to hook into that most weekends. So I haven't been hunting in about 2 months.
That's the different form of hunting.
Yeah, well, that's it. So I shot my first Spanish mackerel with my spear gun on the weekend, which I was pretty stoked about.
Your mate put up a fucking perler. It's huge.
Oh, he shot a huge one, which nearly drowned one of the boys. Fucking mate, it was like trying to saddle a horse while it's running around. That was the equivalent, except we were in the water.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. This thing was dragging us. So I was like, we didn't even, it was at least 25 kilos. My mate's 6'4" and he's standing there holding it up.
Oh my God.
And it's pretty much like covering half his face and touching the floor at the same time.
Yeah, it's insane.
It was a huge
when you put it in
fish.
perspective like that, yeah.
Oh, it was, anyway, but that was just an absolute thrill trying it. And getting Benny getting it. That was he shot a couple before, but nothing like that. But we ended up driving up 4 hours. We did an all-nighter, drove 4 hours, and then put the boat in at Cooktown, and went out to the Ribbon Reefs there. And it was, It was spectacular. It was some of the best diving I've ever done. It's crystal clear. Like, you can see 30 metres.
Yeah, wow.
Like, it was bloke that we always had someone in the boat. There was someone like, the fella in the boat would drop us off and start jigging lures, and you'd literally watch trout from 30 metres below come up and grab the lure. Like, it's pretty spectacular shit. Like, it's, if you ever come up to North Queensland, like, either rent a boat or do a charter and go and do some diving. Like, we go free diving because we have spearfishing, but yeah, go and check out the Great Barrier Reef. Like, if you like, yeah, even if you can't swim, like, you can snorkel, I promise you. And the sharks won't eat you, but it was something that will just blow your mind. Like, it's one of the, life's all about experiences, and it's just definitely something you need to do before you die.
Dude, spearfishing is definitely something that I haven't done. Like, I've done a little bit of it, but not properly, and something that I do want to get into.
Oh, but I guess, yeah, it's something that's like, it's so much more. Like, obviously you're getting a food source, and it's the challenge of being able to hold your breath for that long and whatnot. But like, it's so much more than that too. Like, it's like why I go hunting. Like, I love hunting for the photography side of it, and the just being out in the outdoors, and feeling the dirt between your toes or feeling the water splash up in your face. Like, and then the countless experiences that you see, like, watching eels that hunt for fish, and watching the turtles, and you see massive sharks, and all the rest of it. Like, it's the things you see outside of just like the fish or the pig or the deer that you shoot that like really make an incredible day. Like, I mean, sure, getting that Spanish mackerel just tops it all off, but like, it's like just being there and experiencing that stuff is why you want to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I definitely recommend it to anyone, whether you're a hunter or just like, being outdoors. Like, just keep doing it.
No, I love it. I think it's a good note to finish on. I gotta get to bed.
Yeah, same here, man. Lucky we're both in the same time zone, otherwise we'd be smashed.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Heath, dude. Appreciate it.
No, legend, and thanks everyone for listening, and thank you for having me back on again. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, bro.
Bye.
That wraps up this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, team. If you did have any topics, questions, or you wanted to suggest a guest for Becoming a Bow Hunter, you can send me an email at matty@becomingabowhunter.com. If you are enjoying the show, or you've enjoyed in particular episodes, please do me a solid and share it around with your friends. If you are not already, please hit the subscribe button, as the more subscribers we get, the higher the podcast gets ranked, and that definitely helps out for showing it to other individuals. If you are not already following me on Instagram, it's at becomingabowhunter.podcast, and on YouTube, it's Becoming a Bow Hunter. Get out, team, fling some arrows, get that practice in, and walk those yards in the paddocks until you find those critters. That is it for now, but not the last time that you'll hear from Becoming a Bow Hunter.